Good afternoon, everyone. I want to start by telling you something about the word huge because I chose it carefully and I want you to understand what I mean by it before anything else. Because huge is a word that gets overused in messages like this one, and I do not want it to land as a word that has been worn thin by too much use without enough weight behind it. Welcome. And hear me when I say what is coming is actually huge. There is a phone call coming, and this is not the first time a reading has said that to you. I know that phone calls feature in readings in this space regularly, and sometimes they arrive, and sometimes the arrival is smaller than what was promised, or arrives in a form that feels like a partial version of what was described. This one is different, and I want to explain why so you understand the distinction between this call and the calls you have perhaps been watching for and not yet fully received. This call is different because of what the person making it has gone through to arrive at the place where they are making it, not what happened between you and them. What happened inside them in the private interior of their own process over whatever time has passed between the last significant contact between you and now, something broke open in them. I want to use that phrase carefully because broke open is specific. It is not broke down, not fell apart, not collapsed under the weight of something. Broke open is different. It is what happens when something that has been held tightly closed for too long finally yields, and what was inside gets out, not destructively, expansively, in the way of something that was too large for the container it was being kept in, and that finally found more space than the container allowed. What broke open in them was feeling about you, specifically in the full and unmanaged form that they had been working very hard to keep contained for reasons that made sense to them at the time and that have since stopped making sense in the particular way that reasons for containment stop making sense when the cost of the containment has exceeded the cost of the release. The release is coming through this call. Now, let me tell you about the huge shift because the call is the vehicle, but the shift is the destination. And the shift is what I want to spend the most time describing because I think you need to understand what is actually changing and at what level and what it is going to mean for the version of your life that exists after this call compared to the version that exists right now. Before it, the shift is in the nature of the connection between you, the actual fundamental nature of it, not a surface adjustment, not a tweak to the existing dynamic, a movement from one kind of thing to another kind of thing entirely. Before this call, whatever exists between you has existed in the particular form of something that has not been fully named or claimed or committed to by both people simultaneously in the full and explicit way that would make it real, rather than only felt or hoped for or present but unnamed. In the particular liminal space between what two people feel and what they have said to each other about what they feel. After this call, that liminal space closes. Something is named, something is claimed, something moves from the felt and hoped and present but unnamed into the explicit, the real, the cannot be untaken. That is the shift, and that is why it is huge. I want to speak now about why this will leave you speechless, because that is also in the title, and it is there for a reason. Not as dramatic language, as an accurate description of what you are going to experience. In the first moments after you hear what is said, you will be speechless, not because what is said is beyond belief, not because it is impossible, not because you had absolutely no inkling of what was coming through the line. You will be speechless because of the size of it. The full size, as it lands without the protective layer that anticipation provides. When you know something is coming and have had time to prepare, this arrives with impact because it has been held long enough that the release carries everything that accumulated during the holding, all at once, in the single container of a phone call, and that density of everything that has been building, finally arriving at once, is what produces the speechless. Whew. I want to give you something now to work with between now and when the call comes, because I do not want you to simply wait. I want you to be in the best possible position to receive what is coming in its full form, without the parts of you that protect against disappointment, intercepting it before it can land. The first thing I want you to do is get honest with yourself about what you actually want from this person and from this connection. Not what seems reasonable, not what is practical, not what you could live with. If it is all that is offered, what you actually want, in the most honest, unedited version of your own desire, know that before the call comes, so that when what is offered arrives, you can assess it against what is true in you, rather than against what seems acceptable, given the circumstances. The second thing, release the expectation of the specific form. The call may arrive differently than you are currently imagining it. The words they use, the opening of the conversation, the order in which things are said, the specific language they find for what they have been holding may not match the version you have been quietly rehearsing in the hopeful part of your mind. That is okay. The substance of what is said will be consistent with what I am describing. Even when the form is surprising, trust the substance, not the form. And the third thing, allow yourself to respond from what is actually true in you when the call arrives, rather than from what seems appropriate or measured or safely managed. This is not a moment for the managed response. This is a moment for the true one, which may be more emotional than comfortable, or more direct than usual, or simply more honest than you typically allow yourself to be. When the stakes feel this high, let the stakes be high and respond accordingly with the full version of what you feel when you feel it in real time, rather than in the version you produced. After you had time to process and edit and make it more presentable. The huge shift is not only about what is said in the call, it is also about what you say back, about whether you meet the vulnerability of what they are bringing with an equal vulnerability from your side. Two people being honest simultaneously in real time without the protective distance that has perhaps characterized some of what has existed between you until now is the specific condition under which huge shifts actually happen, rather than just being promised. You have the capacity for that honesty. In this moment, more than you might believe, because what is coming toward you creates the space for what you have been holding to finally have somewhere to go. Whew. The call is coming, the shift is forming, and what you are about to step into is the version of this that both of you have been, in your own separate ways, moving toward for longer than either of you has fully acknowledged, even to yourselves. It is coming in the form of a voice, through a line, between two people who are finally ready for the real version of this. Be ready, not by preparing, by opening. The speechless moment is almost here.